I got to the airport and like I got really, really, really dizzy, and then I was back and I was like checking my bag and I was like, what the fuck just happened? My name is Kate Hall, and I was at Readers Take Denver this year. For anybody who's watching this later on, it is the year 2024, and this was my second year attending Readers Take Denver. Last year I had a lot of fun, but I heard that the behind the scenes there were a lot of issues, and this year they like doubled in size. And I was hoping that they maybe knew what they were doing this time, and you've probably seen the posts. So let's get into it. So my pen name is Alexis Pierce. Here is my proof that I attended Readers Take Denver this year. This is my author badge that I picked up at the convention with my convention lanyard. Readers Take Denver was a massive signing event. Well, it was more of a convention disguised as a signing event that took place at the Gaylord Rockies Event Center and Hotel in Denver, Colorado, I want to say third weekend of April 2024. I signed up over a year ago. I was so excited. I had a lot of plans. I was excited to see a lot of people, and it got bad. It was really bad. So strap in. The first thing that I want to say is that yes, I spoke to the person who ran the event throughout the weekend, and if she says that we spoke, what she will probably say is I was enthusiastic and happy and nice all weekend, but I want to clarify that that is because she is a massive name in the author community, and I was genuinely scared of any sort of pushback. One of the authors who shares an agent with her actually got dropped by the agent because they were questioning the event. So any sort of pushback against the person running the event can be met with like legit issues and legit harm. So I want to put that out there right now. Yes, I did talk to her. Yes, I was friendly with her. No, I did not feel good at the event. I did not feel good about what was happening at the event the whole weekend. I was really hoping things would get better and that they were growing pains, but it just kept getting worse and worse, and the more stuff came out, it was very bad. So for anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Kate Hall. I teach authors how to use TikTok to grow their audience, but I'm also an author named Alexis Pierce. I write spicy paranormal romance books, and I've done pretty okay for myself with that, but I wasn't one of the bigger name authors at this convention. I was seated next to a pretty major name in the main event hall in the room they called Aurora 1, but that's where kind of one of the problems started. Whenever we got our schedules, they listed the rooms as Aurora 1, Aurora 2, but then whenever we got to the convention center, there wasn't an Aurora 1. There was an Aurora Exhibit 1, but that wasn't actually the room we were supposed to be in. That room ended up just being storage. The room we were in was like Aurora Ballroom D or something like that. I don't remember the exact name. Honestly, it was such a fucking blur all weekend. It was so chaotic. I paid $400 for my table for the weekend. Full disclosure, I did make back my table fees and my hotel fees from book sales, but I didn't make back like my flight fees or anything like that, and I didn't sell out of all of my books. So just want to clarify that there were still books left on my table. A lot of people did sell out, which is really great. The one thing I will say about this event is that there were so many amazing readers and authors there, and I got to interact with so many amazing, beautiful, wonderful people, and that was really the heart and soul of why I wanted to go to the event, but it really, really didn't outweigh the absolute fucking horror show that we all had to go through. So So as authors, we were told that we would get to set up at about 5 p.m. on Friday, but the previous event wasn't actually out of the room. I think 3 p.m. is around when I came around, and they still weren't out of the room, and we weren't actually let into the room to start setting up our tables on Thursday. I don't know if I said Thursday or Friday. It was Thursday. We were told we would be able to go in by like 5 p.m. We weren't allowed in the room until 9 p.m. to set up. So if you wanted to go to any of the events and still set up, you basically wouldn't get to, because there were all of these events that we were all very excited about because we wanted to see all of our friends and all of these people we hadn't seen in a year or, you know, more for a lot of people. But if you wanted to set up your table Thursday night, you really didn't get to go to and spend a lot of time at like the welcome party. And they had a bar set up at the welcome party, and I found out later that the alcohol was actually paid for and donated, like, and sponsored by one of the authors for all of these parties. And then they still charged us for alcoholic beverages. I think like a beer for one of my assistants was like $14, and I had just a soda. I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke anything. I don't do anything like that. Cheers to you if you do. I just personally don't. But I just paid for a soda. It was a can of Pepsi, and it was $7 for something that was supposed to be sponsored. Nobody got drink tickets. Nobody knew what was going on. There were 2 tiny bars with massive lines, so if you wanted any sort of beverage, you had to wait in those lines. There were not water stations that I could find at the welcome party. So unless you like brought something with you or purchased like a fucking $10 beverage, you couldn't hydrate. The lines were ridiculous. I signed in. I was there in line at 3 p.m. on Thursday to get my author badge. I was like 6th in line or 10th in line or something. I was really, really close to the front. I want that to be very clear. I was very close to the front because I'm chronically early for shit, and it took me an hour to get my stuff. It took me an hour because they had no idea what they were doing. The event organizers didn't give them any sort of good system to go off of. They originally said, well, this line is for authors, this one's for assistants, and this one is for vendors, and this one's for narrators. And then they changed it. They were like, this line is for everyone, and this line is for assistants though, and then this line is to get your tickets for these other things, which these were paid tickets for meals, and then some of those meals never existed. They didn't provide a lot of those ticketed meals. And when I got into the line, because they said, well, you need to be in this line if you want your tickets for this event, they were like, oh, we don't have tickets for this event. I have no idea what they were talking about. And the person they're pointing at is like 10 feet away. So there was no organization by the people running this. And the line for authors to sign in was long enough that it went up the hallway. And the line for like attendees, this was on Thursday night. Not Friday, this was on Thursday night. The line for attendees was so long that from the other end of the convention center, it was touching the author line on the other end of the convention center from reader registration. It was an absolute clusterfuck. It was so bad. And readers were waiting in line for hours and hours to get their badges. They sorted us by first name for some reason. And then whenever they were going in the lines, they were like, yep, this is, you could see like A through M, or I don't know how they fucking numbered it, but you could see those, and then you would try to get in your line and they would be like, no, it's by first name, you need to go to this one, or you need to wait over here. And they didn't have enough people helping. They didn't have staff on hand. There were a very, very small amount of staff members, and volunteers were doing all of this work. Authors paid $100 to have our shit brought over to our tables, and they were making volunteers carry these 50-pound boxes of books for free for this stuff that we wanted brought over to our table. The garage where things were being held before the event was left open with no attendee, like with no one attending it between like loading and hauling stuff over to the convention center. A lot of people had like thousands of dollars of books go missing. These are things that have been personally told to me. People were like, my books are missing. They said they were delivered and they never showed up. Nobody knows where they are. And it's thousands of dollars worth of books. This is still Thursday night. Just a reminder, I'm still on Thursday night. So obviously I was stressed. My assistant was my sister-in-law, Shayla, for this convention, and we were setting up my table until midnight, and then we did a quick walk around. And when we walked around the 2 Aurora rooms where us lowly, non-high selling authors were, plus a few of the bigger names, like when we were walking around there, a lot of the authors still didn't even have tables. It was midnight and there weren't even like physical tables in the spots for a lot of the authors. And so they were there and their stuff was there and they couldn't set up. And so then the people who organized it bragged about all of these craft panels and other things that we would get to do on Friday. But when Friday came around, we still had to go and set up tables because people didn't have like literal tables until Friday morning, and they wouldn't let us into the room, and they were like, no, you can't come in. Oh, wait, can you come in? I don't know. So nobody knew what was going on. Let's get forward to Friday morning, because after I set up, I walked around to see who all was set up and which all of my friends were there and which friends were there, because I wanted to get books from my friends. I have a lot of friends in the author community and I wanted to get books from them. Didn't end up having time to, but that's a story for when we get to Saturday. We got charged a lot of money for books that for many people didn't even arrive. There were authors who paid thousands and thousands of dollars out of their own pockets to have books and products in the registration bags. A lot of attendees did not get registration bags, and a lot of these authors who paid thousands of dollars to have stuff put in the registration bags, like their shit was at their table. It never made it into the bags. And so they paid thousands of dollars. I hope they get refunded. We'll see. Who knows? That's false advertising. They didn't get the service they asked for. So Friday morning rolls around. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to try to go to these craft panels. I'm going to try to get some amount of sleep. So I slept in until, I want to say like 9 a.m. or something. And I had a really crappy salad from one of the grab and go places. This is not at all the convention's anything, but I got a salad and the cheese was not like shredded or sliced or anything. It was like these massive blocks of cheese in my salad, which is just real great. So that was what I had to eat before the Friday signing. Again, most of us did not have time to go to any of the craft panels that we were promised, so a lot of authors that were really excited or even nervous that nobody would show up to their panel, like a lot of their friends couldn't even come to support them at their panels because we didn't have our shit ready and we couldn't go. I had to do oxygen for I think like 10 minutes because I couldn't breathe. I was dealing with some altitude sickness issues. The ladies running the oxygen stand were really, really nice, and I got to have a really lovely conversation with a woman who had beautiful, beautiful purple hair. So yeah, then I went up and I did my hair and makeup. I got ready. I looked sexy as hell. Just saying, gonna throw that out there. And then the signing happened. It was chaos. They told us in advance that volunteers and assistants would be able to go and get books signed and go get their pre-orders. And what I was told by one of the volunteers, was said to me, to my face, was I have 25 minutes total split through the weekend to pick up pre-orders and meet authors. Like, these are people who are working for you for free and you're giving them 25 minutes a person. I don't know if some of them got more or less than others, but like 25 minutes is not enough for a convention with 300 authors. I was really close to the door in the room that I was in, and I saw people sprinting by my table to try to go pick up things because they wanted to pick up from all of their authors. I gave my assistant 40 minutes to pick things up instead of like the apparently 10 minutes a day that other people got. I gave her 40 minutes to pick things up, and she still, like, when she got back to my table, she was like, there are so many that I just like had waited in line for like 10 or 15 minutes and had to come back. She was lucky too. She was a very lucky one and got to still meet and pick up books from everybody, but like so many people didn't, and it breaks my fucking heart with how much money people paid or how much work people put in hauling thousands of pounds of books across this convention center and putting in all of these really long days. It was awful for these people, and to see them not even get to meet all of the authors they wanted to meet, and to see all of the authors split up across the convention center so that it was so impossible for everyone to see who they wanted to see. My heart is broken for the people who put in all of this work and didn't even get to see or do the things they wanted to. I will say for me, the signing went pretty well. I met a lot of people. I sold a lot of books, and that made me very happy, and I got to experience this joy of meeting people and hanging out with people, and it was so lovely, and I loved talking to people so much. And on Friday at 5 o'clock, there was yelling and like herding people out the door. People who had waited in line to meet an author for 30 minutes. The people running the event were like, no, you can't sell any books after 5 p.m. You have to get out of this room right now. Everybody has to leave. You have to get out. Nobody can sell books past 5 p.m. And us authors were like, okay. And we were like trying to finish signing super quickly, especially books we had literally just sold. And like, so there were people who were excited to see us, and they were being shoved out the door mid-conversation. And then those of us who were authors, we were like, okay, let's reset for tomorrow. And then people running it were like, no, you have to get out of this room right now. Nothing else was going on in that room that night. Literally nothing. There was nothing else happening in the signing rooms that night. And like, they were still just like pushing people out the door. They were pushing authors out the door. They were pushing everyone out, and they were like, you can't even be in here. It's past 5. It's past 5. You have to go. You have to get out. And it was a nightmare. It was confusing. It was stressful. And like, they were so rude to us, to the people, to authors and readers alike who had paid thousands of dollars to be there between flights and hotel rooms and admission and everything. They were literally pushing us out the door at 5 p.m. and they were mad at us for like wanting to reset and clean up our tables for the next morning, because the next morning the signing started at 9, which it actually didn't start at 9, but that's for the Friday morning story. Oh God, it was so fucking bad. So anyway, after we got shoved out the fucking door, I went to dinner with my friends. I got to take a couple of pictures with some friends. It was snowing, which I live in Missouri. It doesn't snow in April here, so it was beautiful to look at. So that was really fun. For me, but it was really stressful for a lot of people who drove there, of course, especially local people who still had to drive home. And then my sister-in-law and I, after dinner, we went and got ready for the red carpet. We were walking over and there were like a ton of people in their formal wear and their beautiful outfits with their beautiful hair and makeup that they'd put so much work in, that were walking away disappointed. And when I got there, I found out why. It was because they had shut down the pictures. They had promised everyone photos and they shut down the photo station. But by the time I got back, they were taking pictures again. Like they shut it down, told a bunch of people to leave, or like told a bunch of people, no, it's too late. And then they like started it back up again. So they couldn't make up their minds on if people could like actually get their nice pictures with all of their effort that they put in. And that was ridiculously frustrating for a lot of people. But yeah, we got some pictures, we talked to a couple of people, and then we were like, okay, we're exhausted, let's go. I was in bed by like 10 or 10:30 p.m. I thought it was 1 a.m. and it was like 10. So then after that, the next morning we woke up real early. I think I woke up at 6:30, but my alarm was for like 8 because I was like, I'm just gonna get up and go. I did not just get up and go. I got up, got ready. And so this was Saturday. We're at Saturday now. And I found out that one of my friends was like doing really unwell. And so I went and checked on her and she was like, yeah, I'm gonna be good. It's good. Can you run and grab me a coffee? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So as I was going, I picked up the coffee and it finally just, that exhaustion and stress just hit me as I was saying hi to someone. So if I said hi to you and then just started sobbing and asked you to help, if you wanted to run downstairs with me while I was carrying the coffee and you said you couldn't, I wasn't sobbing because of you. I was sobbing because of everything. So I was sobbing, carrying the coffee over, and went over and I dropped it off and she was like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like, I'm just having a meltdown because I'm so stressed and it's so much. And so then I headed over to the signing room and I was just sitting there and sobbing. A couple of authors came up to me. Maggie Cole, who's a friend of mine, came up and was like, oh my God, I love you, and hugged. And we talked about just like life things and hugged and cried together. And Holly Roberts came over to me and she gives the best hugs in the entire world. She was like, I know it's so stressful. It's a lot going on. I was like, you can't stay over here. We have to sign books for volunteers because this is the only time they get. And Holly will remember, like, I was crying while I was saying that. And I was like, no, I'll be okay. And so she went back to her table. The nicest volunteer that I talked to, we became besties. And I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. I met so many people, but I loved hanging out with you. So if this is you, message me because I want to be your best friend in the whole world. And you put so much time and energy and effort in, and I don't know how you were so upbeat the whole time, but I adore you. Even though we got yelled at by that one lady, I was so happy to get to sign books for people. And so Saturday during the signing, I noticed the room was a lot emptier than it was the previous day. And I don't know this for sure, but what I have been told, what people have said, is that they were not letting people into the room and they were like holding people at the door and waiting to let people in because there were a lot fewer people in the room on Saturday than there were on Friday. This could be rumors, that's just what I've been told. And with the significantly lower number of people that were there on Saturday, it wouldn't surprise me. After the signing, actually not even after the signing was supposed to go till noon on Saturday. At 11:45, actually no, I looked at my phone when it happened. It was 11:42. They were flickering the lights in the signing room to like try to push people out of the room because they were like, you've got to get out of here. And people were like, what the hell? And like I even looked at Shayla and was like, what the hell is that? What the fuck is wrong with these people? And then like again 5 minutes later, they like turned the lights off and turned them back on. And then at noon, they like turned the lights off for a few seconds and we were like, what the actual hell? And they were like trying to push us out. And I was like, no, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get books from a couple of the authors that I've wanted to get books from. And I didn't even get to hit up all of the authors I wanted because they were like, no, you guys have to leave. You have to pack up your books. Again, there was nothing else going on in this room that day. We had time and they were shoving us out the door. When I did go, I went to 2 tables to pick up books from authors that were friends of mine. And it took me no time at all because by then obviously they had closed the room. But like I went back to my table and hotel staff were like trying to grab our tablecloth and like trying to push our stuff off of our table in order to get us out of the room. And I was like, no, give me a minute. I need to put my stuff away. And like a lot of authors, like they were so stressed. They were like, what are you, I don't know what to do. And I'm a bitch. So like, I'm going to be like, no, wait, like I'm gonna fight you if you don't let me put my shit away. It's 12:05. Give us a second. So then after this, a lot of the authors who were in these main signings still had to do like the Rising Star signing because they were like, oh, we put you in for an extra one. I don't know if they had paid specifically to do it or if this was just the convention being like, oh, well, we're going to have you do this as well. I don't know. What I do know is that some of these authors had to do the main event and then they had to go do the lunch with the stars and then they had to go to the Rising Star signing and have a table there. And so they had no time, no breaks. The Rising Star people, I've found out, like they didn't have tables and were having to set up their own tables in there. Like it was so stressful that one of their assistants, like we thought they were going to have to go to the hospital. Like it got really bad and really stressful because they were pushing us through all of these events really quickly and they were getting mad at us, the people who paid hundreds or thousands of dollars to be there. And then you see these posts like Rebecca Yarros just posted on Facebook that like the convention center told her, Rebecca fucking Yarros, that the other authors there hated her because she's such a big name. You don't fucking say that to people. You don't say this to people who are gonna try to come back. If you were in a ticketed room, you were fucked. You couldn't sell books. You were so screwed because you didn't have time. They wouldn't let people back in to get your books. And then they had the bookseller selling pre-orders that the signed ticketed authors didn't know about. And it was just like so confusing. And if like they came in to get their pre-orders from these authors and they were like, no, those are with the bookseller. And then they went back to the bookseller. Then the convention wouldn't let them back into the signed rooms. And I know this because one of my friends was in the signed room and I ran into her at FedEx the next morning and she had like almost a pallet worth of books left because they wouldn't let people in and they wouldn't let her sell her damn books because people wouldn't get to come back in and they didn't have time. And it was just so confusing that nobody knew when they could actually go into the rooms. And they were trying to organize the whole thing through WhatsApp and it was just such a nightmare. So like this all ended at 5. I was supposed to go to dinner with some of my friends. None of the restaurants had space because there were just too many people at this damn convention. They told us there would be about 1,500 people last spring. They told us about 1,500 people, and there were 3,500 people between authors, volunteers, and readers at this convention. If you wanted to get a meal at a mealtime, you were fucked. And if you wanted to not miss out on events, you were fucked because like we couldn't even get a meal until 8:30 p.m. when everything ended at 5 p.m. on Saturday because of all of this. I'm getting a lot of adrenaline right now. So I did get to buy books at the Rising Star event. Many of the authors there were very stressed, but were very graceful and very kind to everyone that came up to their tables. But like just the exhaustion in everybody by this point was horrible. And I felt so awful for everybody. Like to this point, I didn't even realize how bad I was feeling because I was so busy trying to help everybody else and make their lives a little bit easier. Yeah, so we had dinner. I sat and ate dinner in a hotel room because we just got like to-go orders from some of the restaurants because it was going to be an hour and a half to 2 hours for any of the restaurants. We got a to-go order and ate in my friend's hotel room and it was a blast. We had fun, we chatted, all of this shit happened, and then I got to say bye to my friends because they were leaving really early. So I went to the speakeasy on Saturday Saturday night at the request of Sadie Kincaid because I met her at 20 Books Vegas and was like, hey, cool, we're cool. So I went and said hi to her, and then I got to chat and hang out with some of my friends for like an hour. Shout out to Bridget and Jake Bordeaux for being the coolest people on the fucking planet. Y'all are the best, and I love you. But yeah, so everything you've heard is probably true, is what I'm saying. Everything you've heard from a first-person source, from a primary source, as we say in media literacy, is probably true and more. You're going to hear more coming out. I've had several people tell me I'm going to write something up, but I cannot function because Saturday morning I went to FedEx and dropped off my books, and then I went to say goodbye to some of my friends at the breakfast, which was a toaster strudel and coffee. That was the breakfast that authors paid several $1,000s to be sponsors of. I went to that, I started saying goodbye to some of my friends, and then I don't remember anything happening after I found out that one of the sponsor authors wasn't even there. I don't remember. I don't know what I said. I don't know who I talked to. I know that I was there, I was saying bye to someone, and then I don't fucking know, and it's terrifying. I've never, so I don't drink, I don't do drugs or anything, and I've never had that happen. I've never lost time like that. But the only reason that I know anything that happened is because I was like manically texting people because I was, I guess, freaking out the whole time. So I'm sorry if I talked to you and freaked you out while that was happening. All I remember is I was at the breakfast and I gave someone a hug, and then I remember being in the bathroom in my hotel room, so I was really happy to know that I made it back to my hotel room okay. I remember whenever I walked outside, it was like hot and cold, and my sister-in-law told me that it was because they had like the heat on the patio because it was cold outside. And then I remember being in a car, which was the car that took me to the airport. I got to the airport and like I got really, really, really dizzy, and then I was back, and I was like checking my bag, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? And I was trying to figure it out, and I was trying not to cry at the airport because I didn't want to be seen as a risk, because I was like, I can either go to the ER or I can go home, and I just want to go home. And so I had to pretend I was okay because I didn't want to get denied access to my flight because I live, 1,000 miles away, or I think it's like 6. It doesn't matter how many miles. While we were at the airport, my sister-in-law made sure I ate. Apparently I took my medication in the hotel room, so I think that's part of why I came back by the time we were at the airport. It was only like an hour that I lost, and I know that like nobody like touched me or did anything, but I don't know what was said. I don't know who I talked to. I got on my flight, and I was so happy that I paid for the upgraded seats for the flight home. Like, when I booked the flights originally, I was like, you know what, we're gonna be tired from a fun weekend. And we were tired for a whole different reason. While we were in the airport, we of course saw a bunch of people that were also headed home from this event, and they were like one of the readers started crying to me because she was so excited, and it was just so horrible for her. And she was treated so badly, and it just fucking breaks my heart that this thing that was supposed to be happy and exciting was such a nightmare for so many people. So yeah, that was my experience. Everything I've said is what I've experienced, but there is so much more if you check on Threads. People's talks about Readers Take Denver. There were men who showed up from a different convention because there was no security whatsoever, and women were sexually harassed and assaulted. There was no accountability. I'm gonna show you, this is the email I received from Readers Take Denver after the event. They're taking no accountability. They're pushing the blame on everybody else. They're claiming that nothing is their fault. And like, I doubt anyone's gonna get a fucking refund for anything that they've gone through. Just know that there's a lot more that happened than what was in this video. Like, a lot more. All this to say, I just, somebody needed to say something, because some people don't want to go on Threads and read things. So I was like, fuck it, I'll post a YouTube video. The fuck are they gonna do to me that they haven't already? They've ruined all future events, not just this one for me, because I've pulled out of all future signings. I love you readers so much, and I love all of the people that I got to hang out with and meet, but like, it was scary. It was really, really scary for me. And other people had it worse. And the fact that other people had it worse when I had it so fucking bad is horrific. I was hoping to be in therapy over Taylor's new album, but instead I'll be in therapy over this shit. Yeah, I've dropped out of Readers Take Denver 2025. If you are planning on going next year, good luck. If you're still planning after everything that people have shared, then all I will say is good luck and I wish you the best. But I'm not doing it. And I've pulled out of other signings as well that I'm sure are wonderful, amazing events that I've only ever heard good things about, but I can't do it. Hey, if you want TikTok for authors, I have a course, whatever. Oh, fucking A. If you want to sign and sell books and you were traumatized by this event, I guess learn how on my TikTok shop. Or my TikTok course, whatever the fuck it's called. Because I have to push my shit, don't I? Because capitalism is a fucking nightmare. So, yeah, that's it. That was Readers Take Denver 2024. Thank you for listening to my experience.